Testing. Okay. So just three more, and I think because these are from my mum.
Yep.
And I don't think she got back to me until a week ago or so.
Right.
Hence why I missed him. So we're kind of going back to early childhood again.
Yes.
So what were your favourite books or stories when you were a little girl?
Famous books and stories.
Favourite books and stories.
Yeah. I would tackle all books, but and I always got prizes, at school and at Sunday school. I would stick with that book until I'd read it, and they would be all sorts of books though, fairy story, like stories that told a story, some that like, how can I describe? Like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I used to like that sort of a thing, but all sorts of books. I used to, as a tiny child, I loved my nursery rhyme book, which nobody talks about nursery rhymes these days, but you knew those off by heart because you read the book so many times, and they were beautifully illustrated. I had some lovely books, and there were those books that were like Chums or Boys Own and Girls Own, great big thick books that have got a variety of stories in them of cowboys and Indians and different things about people with pets, and it was a conglomeration of a lot of different little stories in these big thick books.
Right.
And I had a load of those. My father used to cull my books because I was a great collector of books, and he used to give them to a friend who had children, and he felt that I'd gone past that sort of stage. But I loved anything that made me think, or captivated me, something that was entertaining, and something that had a happy ending. All fiction, of course. I wasn't into looking into science, even science for little kids. That wouldn't captivate me. I liked something that was with a few pictures in it, lots of words and pictures. And of course my father always bought me a dictionary because he was sick of me asking him, what did this word mean? I'd read it in a book and I wanted to know what it meant. Yeah. So he was so sick of it, he bought me a little Webster's dictionary, which I think it's still somewhere in my bookcase. Anyway, but I just loved all books. I'd tackle anything, even some of my brother's books, and they were always very boyish, But I'd have a crack at them and often put them down and not finish them because they weren't very interesting anyway.
No worries. Now, she's also asked, did your family go on holidays?
Yes. Not often, because to go on holidays we used to have to go by government transport. Even is this as a child? Is it as a child?
I think so. She didn't specify, so I'm assuming she meant when you were a child.
Well, certainly not every year. I remember going as quite a young child to Katoomba, and of course we'd have to go by train, and I remember living in an awful house. We obviously had to pay rent or something. I remember being taken out to see the Three Sisters and stuff like that. Later, of course, when I was a teenager, Mum and I used to go to Bundanoon. We went to Bundanoon one time, and there again to Katoomba. And I was keen on riding, and that was one of my big things. So I always wanted to go where there were horses. so I had my riding gear. I bought, when I went to work, I bought jodhpurs and stuff like that, and boots. And where else used we go? Wyong, we had a holiday at Wyong, but it was just Mum and I. Dad was never interested in holidays. He really wasn't, and he loved to shout us. He'd pay for us to go, but which was nice, and it was a break for Mum. And he'd just batch with, because by this time he was a mason, and he belonged to the he belonged to the club in Sydney, and probably he would because he worked in Sydney, he probably would go there for meals. He'd knock himself up some breakfast. That's easy, and yes, we did have holidays as things got better, and it certainly as I was working, I could chip in with a lot of things, you know.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. And the last one. What were Christmases like when you were growing up?
Oh, so exciting! As a young child, they're so exciting, and we always did the same thing. We always had. It was always at our place, and all my two aunts and their husbands and their children would come. That's to Bondi, and two rooms were involved. The kitchen was and the kitchen and the dining room. The adults were in the dining room, and us kids were all out in the kitchen. And but Christmas morning we always did the same thing on Christmas morning. We always went to church first thing, and we'd come home, and Mum would start to bake the I can remember eating cherries every Christmas morning. There'd be a bowl of cherries there, and Mum would be chopping up stuff to stuff the chooks, and put the leg of pork in the stove, and because it was quite a crowd of us to feed, and Granny would be preparing. She'd be chopping up beans and cutting up the veggie part of it. That would be her part of it. Mum always did the cooking, but before Christmas, all the Christmas puddings, the Christmas cakes, the mince pies, the shortbread, everything was cooked weeks before Christmas. But on the great day, when all the presents, you'd waken as a young child to see what Santa had brought, and of course, we always had a little piece of cake and a glass of wine on our fireplace for when Santa came down the chimney, and you'd see the few crumbs left, and the wine would be empty, the wine glass would be empty. It was so realistic. Yeah. And that they were lovely. Christmas was something to enjoy, and then us kids we'd always be down the backyard playing, and the folks, I think, would, after their dinner, they'd be just sitting talking inside. There was always nuts and muscatels to chew all afternoon. The big bowl of nuts with the nutcracker there, and you'd have to break a lot of them out of their shells. That was fun too, and eat anything that you. Within reason, you know, under the supervision of the parents would sort of chip you if you were being too greedy on something. But just a great day, and always so everything. Mum used to get me to write a list of what I would like for Christmas, even from being a little kid, and I'd always have a book. A book that I wanted, or just a book, and I always liked bottles of scent, bottles of perfume, and so there was always a bottle of perfume. Whatever I wanted, I got, and so they were great times. They were really lovely. And even when we came up here, when the children were little, I remember getting out to Bondi per tram, with the 3 kids, the stroller. I think your mother was in the stroller, and and all the Christmas all their presents, because we'd be sleeping over. This is Christmas Eve, and sleeping over at Mum's place, and so I'd have to hide them because they were all surprises, and so I don't. Sometimes I wonder how I ever staggered under the load, of getting on the train with the stroller and the kids, and getting out there in daylight, and we'd arrive pretty close to dark by the time we got to Bondi. It would be quite a trip, and but it was lovely to wake up on Christmas morning and do all the what I've said. Go to church first, and then get stuck into preparing the meal, and the kids could. I think Dad might have taken them down to the beach. I just forget what his chore was on Christmas morning, but anyway, waiting for the rest of the family to come, it was really quite something. Yeah, so Christmas was lovely. Christmas is always special.
Yeah, it is. Okay, well, now I really think that's everything, Grandma.
Is it?
So I've pretty much gone through every question that I've been given so far, so unless I get more questions, this week or whatever, then I think we've pretty much...
Yeah, that's great.
So, but just wanted to just say thanks. Like, this has been a real privilege for me, spending the time with you and just hearing your stories.
Look, I think you have been marvellous, Ben. Thank you for what you're saying, and it's just been lovely, and you're welcome any time.
Yeah.
And if I knew you were coming, I could make you something tasty that you like to eat, because if and when you come again. So there might be another time.
I'll continue to visit, I think, Grandma. Maybe not every single week, but
that would be lovely.
I might just give you a call.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
Pop around a bit more often.
That'd be fantastic. And Ben, all of those cans of drink, I've got to pay you for those, darling.
Don't be silly.
No.
Why would you pay me for them? I didn't pay for them.
So you stole some of the firm's goods.
No, it's part of,
That's part of the deal.
I get 4 cases a month, which there's no way I can drink all that, so...
Oh, well, that's very generous of you anyway, Ben. That's just lovely. Can I knock you up something now, darling? Would you like something tasty?
Honestly, I'm fine. I'm A-okay. I've been nibbling away at these chips and nuts and whatnot, and...
Yeah, but that's you want something substantial, and you want